apple inscribed with "For the most beautiful," and in Get ready to learn some incredible things about this world, because here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. The TV show All in the Family was the first primetime show to have a sound of a flushing toilet. For much of television's history, it was actually taboo to even show a bathroom, let alone have any sort of bathroom sound. This show helped change that. Author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, also writes crime novels under the name Robert Galbraith. Books that she's published under her fake name includes The Silkworm and Cuckoo's Calling. Look out for them in bookstores. WD-40 was invented by Norm Larson back in 1953. He was attempting to concoct a formula to prevent corrosion, a task that's done by displacing water. WD stands for water displacement, and the 40 is because he finally gained success on his 40th attempt. The band Nickelback got its name from Mike Kroger's cashier experience at a Starbucks. Customers would pay $1.50 for a coffee that always only cost $1.45, so he would always have to give them a nickel back. 1 in 2 million lobsters is blue, but 1 in every 3 million can be yellowy orange, and even rarer are white lobsters. Each of these colors only shows up about once every few years. It is possible to cry in outer space. However, your tears never fall. They just sort of sit there like a blob under your eye. In 2009, in the jungle of the Philippines, scientists discovered a new species of pitcher plant. It's the largest carnivorous plant ever discovered. It's called the Cepenthus attenbori, named after Sir David Attenborough. Other meat-eating plants eat things like insects and spiders, but this one's so big that it actually eats rats. McDonald's Hamburger University trains students in restaurant management skills and has over 275,000 graduates. But it's no joke. With a selection rate of 1% at its Shanghai campus, this intense week-long training program is more exclusive than Harvard. There's a disorder called congenital amusia, where people can't recognize common songs from their culture, can't tell when notes are out of tune, and sometimes say that music sounds like banging to them. In 2016, Florida Governor Rick Scott passed a bill making it legal to break into any locked vehicle in order to rescue a pet or vulnerable person that they believe to be in imminent danger of suffocation. And this was necessary because as much as 32 people every year in Miami die in hot car deaths. In ancient Greece, the apple was thrown at someone to symbolically declare one's love for them. This is because in Greek mythology, the Greek goddess Eris became disgruntled after she was excluded from a wedding, and in retaliation tossed a golden apple inscribed with "For the most beautiful one" into the wedding party. At that point, it was claimed by Aphrodite and thus became a symbol for love. According to the World Health Organization, an estimated 350 million people globally suffer from depression. It's also a leading cause of disability worldwide and is a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. The planet Neptune has the strongest winds in our solar system, with winds up to 2,100 kilometers an hour. To put that into context for you, hurricane winds on Earth see speeds of up to only 119 kilometers an hour. That's 18 times faster. Koalas have human-like fingerprints. In fact, they're almost identical to human ones. Not even careful analysis under a microscope easily distinguish the loopy, whirly ridges on koalas' fingers from our own. Elephants have the longest known pregnancy of any animal, lasting up to 680 days. In addition to being born with an advanced level of brain development, they also have a unique cycle of ovulation and hormone levels that are unlike any other animal. Dr. Wuzong Zhu of St. Andrews University found that about 1.5 million diamond nanoparticles are created in a candle flame every second that it burns. Unfortunately, they're burned away during the process. However, it's believed that this discovery could lead to research into how diamonds could be created more cheaply. Because the main purpose of marriage to ancient people was to produce children, they used to shower the new bride with fertility symbols like wheat grain. The Romans used to bake this wheat into small cakes to be eaten in a tradition known as conferratio, meaning eating together. The guests of the ceremony used to throw handfuls of honey-eyed nuts and dried fruits called confetto. And this was how the tradition of throwing confetti at weddings started. The origin of the game hopscotch began in ancient Britain during the Roman Empire. The original cords were 30 meters long and were used for military training exercises. Soldiers actually used to run in full armor and field packs to improve their footwork. Roman children drew their own smaller courts and added a scoring system, and thus hopscotch was born and spread throughout Europe. Originally, the traffic and train light for go was white and caution was green. The choice of white light for go turned out to cause a lot of problems. For example, back in 1914, one of the red lenses fell out of its holder while leaving a white light behind it exposed. This ended up with a train running a stop signal and crashing into another train. So the railroad changed it so that the green light meant go, and yellow was chosen for caution, mostly because it's the most distinct color from the other two. Up until 1564, the French celebrated New Year's between March 25th and April 1st. But when the new Gregorian calendar was introduced, the festival was moved to January 1st. Those who resisted the change became victims of pranks, including invitations to non-existent New Year's parties on April 1st. And this is why we celebrate April Fool's Day on April 1st. The candy-filled eggs Kinder Surprise made by Italian company Ferrero are actually illegal in the United States. The U.S. Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act
Bullshit, I
bans
seen
all
those motherfuckers
candies
in
embedded
Dollar General.
with non-nutritive objects. If you bring one into the United States, you could actually be fined up to $1,200 per egg. According to a study done in 2007 by Marshall McHugh, a researcher in the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Arkansas, intense snake hunger can cause snakes to actually digest their own heart muscle. However, immediately following a nutritious meal, snake hearts can actually quickly rebuild themselves. Cornell University discovered that the tiger beetle runs so fast it can no longer see where it's going. It actually has to use its antenna to avoid obstacles. The American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology found that a bite from a lone star tick can cause you to develop an allergy to red meat, including beef and pork. If your nose ever gets stuffy and begins to run after eating meat, or you get nauseated or get a rash, you may have this allergy. And a tick, get checked. Humans shed their entire outer layer of skin every 2 to 4 weeks. We shed at a rate of about 500 million cells a day. This is the major contributor to house dust. New research published in the Journal of Meteorics and Planetary Science confirmed that the blade on the dagger found in Tutankhamun's tomb is made with materials from a meteorite. Scientists performed X-ray fluorescence spectrometry on it, which is a method used to learn more about elements of an object and what they're composed of. It was found to contain iron, nickel, and cobalt, all materials found in chunks of space rocks. After years of campaigning by conservationists, in May of 2016, President Obama signed a National Bison Legacy Act into law, making the North American bison the official mammal of the United States. It's the first official mammal recognized by the federal government. On May 15, 1809, Connecticut woman Mary Keyes was the first American woman to receive a patent. Her innovation was to make a hat by weaving silk or thread into straw, creating a pleasing appearance that became a fashion fad. A man named Luke Irwin inadvertently came across an amazing discovery buried under his newly purchased property in Wiltshire, England. While an electrician that he hired was drilling the ground, he hit a layer of intricate red, white, and blue mosaic tile. It turned out that the Irwin residence was built on one of the largest and best preserved Roman villas ever found in Great Britain. There's such a thing as a museum dedicated to wax representations of disfiguring diseases. The Moulage Museum in Zurich, Switzerland is one of them. Civilizations as old as the ancient Egyptians used wax to record how people looked when they died. By the early 1700s, moulages were a well-known teaching method for medical students and doctors. A Silicon Valley-based company called Got It has developed an app by the same name. If you're a high school student and you get stuck on a question, you can submit it to the app and get tutors to bid for an answer. When the student accepts the bid, which only usually costs about $1, he or she gets a 10-minute long tutor session over text. The common housefly doesn't have a mouth. Instead, it has an eating tube through which it vomits a drop of fluid from its stomach onto its meal. It then sucks up the fluid along with the nutrients that it dissolved, leaving behind a huge amount of germs. According to Universe Today, the distance between the surface and the center of the Earth is about 6,378 kilometers. In March of 1974, local farmers in the Shaanxi province of China were drilling for water when they discovered an underground chamber that contained over 8,000 life-sized warrior figures that were made out of terracotta clay. They were from China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who ordered the construction of the figures back in 246 BC in readiness for his own burial. And he was only 13 years old at the time. Singer Billy Joel has performed more concerts in Madison Square Garden than any other artist. John Ratzenberger, known for his role as Cliff Clavin in the hit TV sitcom Cheers, is the only actor to have voiced characters in every single Pixar movie. On May 8th, 2010, actress Betty White, who was 88 at the time, became the oldest person to host Saturday Night Live. The oldest village on Earth is Oymyakon in Russia. The average temperature there in January averages negative 51 degrees Celsius, and their all-time low is negative 71 degrees Celsius in February. In Crater Lake in Central Oregon, there is a floating tree trunk known as the Old Man of the Lake that has been bobbing completely vertically in the lake for well over 100 years. It's been referenced in writing as far back as 1896. The octopus, the squid, and the salmon all die soon after giving birth. For the most part, males die soon after fertilizing the female's eggs, and the females only live long enough to birth their young before dying. It's estimated that poachers kill about 30,000 elephants a year to keep up with the global demand for ivory, according to a 2010 report. But as of July 2016, the United States has adopted a near total ivory ban. In fact, more than a ton of ivory was crushed in New York City in 2015 as part of the U.S. government's plan to crack down on the illegal trade. The Amazon rainforest is home to 427 mammals, 1,300 birds, 378 reptiles, and more than 400 amphibians. Google was originally named Backrub. In 2006, an analysis of cats' tongues showed that they do not have the taste receptors that react to sweet-tasting things. Every feline, from lions to tigers down to the domestic house cat, cannot taste anything sweet. There's a resort in Finland called Kakslotinen Arctic Resort where your accommodations are a glass igloo. The recessed dip on the facial structure of your skull, between your eyes and above the bridge of your nose, is called the nasien. Cosmetic surgeons rely heavily on the type of nasien that a person has when planning a rhinoplasty, aka nose job. August 13th is officially Left-Handers Day. On April 14th, 1986, Bangladesh was hit by the biggest hailstones ever recorded, weighing in at over 1 kilogram each and killing 92 people. Before mating, the female giraffe will urinate in the male's mouth. From the taste of her urine, the male can determine if she's in heat or not. The original Twinkie filling was actually banana flavored. It wasn't until World War II that there was a banana shortage, so vanilla became the standard flavor. And now you're just a little bit smarter. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to my channel because I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If you want to watch more right now, you can press or click. Ooh, this one's a hot topic. The joke was a lot funnier when I wrote it down. So global warming, or climate change as it's more commonly referred to these days, is a highly contended topic. People on both sides have very strong opinions about it, whether they believe in it or not. And because of all of the information coming from both sides, including some misinformation, it can be really hard to form an opinion. Well, in this Facts in 5, I'm going to explain to you everything that you need to know about global warming in 5 minutes or less so that you can form your own educated opinion. Some people support it with solid science, while others say it's just a sham. Can't figure out what side you're on? Well, maybe this will help. This is Facts in 5, all about global warming. So what is global warming? Global warming refers to the gradual increase that many believe is occurring to the average temperature in our atmosphere and oceans. That is, in addition to the overall alteration of the Earth's climate. Now, this change can be attributed to the increased levels of carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbons, as well as other pollutants that are finding their way into our atmosphere. Many people feel that climate change is the single greatest humanitarian crisis of our time. This is mostly due to the different threats that it creates, such as to our health, national security, and our communities. And you've even seen it in politics. Nations have begun taking this crisis very seriously and are now taking steps to combat it by reducing pollution and increasing awareness. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. Unless, of course, you don't believe in it, in which case you're like, who's this Mr. Clean-looking douche flapping his guns? So who benefits or suffers from global warming? While it's easy to see the negative effects of climate change, believe it or not, there are plenty of individuals who are actually benefiting from it. Global warming is said to be the future cause of issues such as spreading of disease, wars, and potentially the biggest economic disruption since World War II. But believe it or not, this could actually create a profit for certain groups. Think about it. If there's less land to own, then the available land's worth greatly increases. The economy would be hugely altered, resources would become more expensive to acquire, and those with an abundance of those resources are really going to profit. So when you're gathering information from certain sources on this topic, think, what do they have to benefit from this? Where are the effects of global warming apparent? You can perceive the effects of global warming in virtually any country and climate that you could visit on this planet. After all, it's said to be responsible for the storms and tsunamis that destroy cities and coastlines, the fires that ravage forests and plains, and the rising seas that are slowly placing more and more land underwater. Not to mention the droughts that continue to increase world hunger. But it's important to realize that it's not just the extreme events that reveal how much global warming is affecting us. It's both the cause of the searing heat in the summer and the unbearably cold weather temperatures in the winter. In fact, according to experts, the probability that all of these changes could simply happen by chance is virtually zero. When will global warming be addressed? Never, we're all doomed. No, I'm just kidding. You're actually seeing it being addressed right now, especially in politics, but it goes much farther back than that. Temperature records that have been started as far back as 1880 show that the 20 warmest years that the Earth has ever seen have occurred since 1981, and more than that, with 10 of them occurring in the last 12 years. In 2004, experts at the Pentagon filed a report that said that climate change could potentially wipe out the Earth's population by 2024. That's around the corner. 11 years later, on August 3rd, 2015, US President Barack Obama revealed the Clean Power Plan that, for the first time in American history, sets national limits on carbon pollution from power plants. Why is this so important? Well, because US power plants produce the most carbon pollution by far, and reducing it means the reduction or at least slowing of global warming. AKA, you have a better chance of staying alive and not becoming a human boiled lobster. Why does global warming happen? Over the last century, fossil fuels such as oil and coal have been burned all over the globe, increasing the concentration of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. This, alongside other gases including water vapor, methane, and nitrous oxide, act as a thermal blanket for our planet. Then, the sun's rays pass through the atmosphere and warm the Earth. However, that heat is then radiated back into space, except that some of it gets absorbed by those gases and slowly increases the Earth's overall temperature. In addition to fossil fuels, other potential causes of global warming are deforestation, vast uses of pesticides, increases in garbage produced within landfills, and of course, overpopulation, just to name a few. At the end of the day, this is a very real crisis that experts say should not be a debate anymore. But all I can give you is some of the facts. I highly encourage you guys to do research on your own and form your own educated opinion. Which, believe me guys, is super important considering there are some politicians who are actually climate change deniers. Very scary. That being said, I wanted to remind you guys that you can now watch all of my videos on Watchable.com. Or if you're on the go, which pretty much everybody is nowadays, download the Watchable mobile app so you can watch everything as you go. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please click that like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can catch my next video. I love you guys, thank you for watching, and let's save the planet, because I don't want to die. Alright guys, I'll see you next video. Peace. Ooh, science rules!
Now I'm gonna grab the hydrogen peroxide and pour it inside of here. Whoa! Boom! Look at this. This is insane.
Growing up, I always loved shows like Bill Nye the Science Guy and Beakman's World because they made science fun, accessible, and easy to do at home. And if you're anything like me, you love science experiments. So why don't we talk about something you can do at home right now? These are 10 amazing science experiments you can do at home. Number 1 is oobleck. Oobleck is the name for a strange mucky substance you can easily make with 1 part water and 2 parts cornstarch. As the cornstarch is slowly mixed into the water, it will become tougher the more you try to stir it up. Once the two are fully mixed together, you'll get a white slimy goo called oobleck or magic mud. Oobleck is different because it's classified as a non-Newtonian fluid because it displays properties of both a liquid and a solid. Smack it or roll it into a ball in your hand to see it harden under physical force, but if you let it rest, it will quickly ooze out of your grasp. The name oobleck is taken from a book called Bartholomew and the Oobleck by Dr. Seuss, which tells of a sticky goo substance called oobleck that falls from the sky. If you want to get creative with your oobleck, you can always add food coloring to the mixture while you're stirring it. Just be careful because it can really easily slip out of your hands, but it's a lot of fun. Number 2 is the canned rainbow. There are actually 2 methods of creating a canned rainbow, and neither of them involves running around on a rainy day trying to catch one with a jar, you big piece of crazy. Both methods are achieved by stacking liquids with different densities on top of each other. The most effective way is to use a bottom layer of honey, colored dish soap on top of that, a layer of water, then olive oil, and finally add a top layer of isopropyl alcohol. Alternatively, if you don't have those things, use a few cups of sugar, water, and food coloring. For this method, you'll be adding various levels of sugar to each cup and dissolving each amount in water with colors. Make sure the water with the most sugar is poured in first, since it will be the heaviest and will sit at the bottom. From there, you slowly add in your different rainbow layers, going from the mixes with the most sugar to the mixes with the least. Once you're done, you'll have a glass of liquid rainbow art to show off. Number 3 is a miniature electromagnet. It's time to harness the power of electromagnetism at home. What you'll need first is an iron bolt or nail, which will act as your magnet, some copper wire, and any kind of battery that you have in your house. Size AA or D is best. First, you need to wrap your copper wire around your bolt a bunch of times, leaving the other end of each wire long enough to connect to the battery. Try to wrap the wire as tightly close together as you can, and if you have enough, wrap another layer over top to make a stronger magnet. Once the iron object is all wrapped up, you'll need to connect one end of the copper wire to the positive charged part of the battery and the other end to the negative. After the connections have been made, you'll have your very own electromagnet to pick up small metal objects. The electricity from the battery will travel through the copper wire and into the nail or bolt, giving it a magnetic charge. Number 4 is magnetic slime. To create magnetic slime, you'll need a tablespoon of borax powder or some laundry detergent that contains borax, mixed with about 2.5 cups of water. Empty out the contents of a small bottle of white school glue and slowly stir in the borax water. Stirring and mixing this enough will create the goo, which is pretty fun to play with on its own. Now, add a bunch of iron fillings and work that slime around until it's uniform with small iron specks. Once you have a suitable amount of iron incorporated into your goo substance, grab your magnets and
I really need to.
watch as the slime literally crawls towards them. The magnetic slime is most fun with powerful magnets, so try to have some on hand before performing your experiment. Also, keep in mind that your slime will only stay good until the iron fillings go rusty, so don't plan on storing it for a later date. That could get nasty, bran all over your hands. Ain't nobody got time for that. Number 5 is the plant maze. Plants aren't exactly active or exciting organisms, but they do make pretty good navigators when it comes to finding sunlight. To see them in action for yourself, you'll need a small box with a lid, like a shoebox, a few pieces of cardboard, scissors, tape, and a little bean plant in soil. Open the box and fashion 2 small walls out of your cardboard to tape in place. Position them sticking out on either side, creating a little zigzag maze for your wee bean sprout to figure out, and then secure them with tape. Cut a decent sized hole about 3 inches wide at the top of your shoebox maze. This is where the sunlight will pour through and guide your plant to victory. Once the maze is ready, water your sprout and place it at the bottom of the box. Then place the lid over top and tape it shut to make sure no other light can get in. If you leave your little bean plant and come back to it about 4 or 5 days later, you'll find that it has grown upwards through the maze. Mother Nature's a mad scientist. Number 6 is a pressurized balloon. For this truly odd experiment, you'll be inflating a balloon by sucking air out of a plastic bottle. First, you'll need an empty plastic bottle, preferably something large enough to allow the balloon to expand like a large sports drink. Once you have that, cut a small hole about halfway down the side of it that you'll use to suck the air out. Next, get your balloon, lower it into the bottle, and stretch the opening over the mouth of it. Now that you have the opened balloon dangling in the bottle, it's time to start sucking the air out through that hole that you cut in the side. As you suck the air out, you'll notice that the balloon will start to inflate, even though the end of it is wide open. What you are doing here is creating an imbalance in air pressure by decreasing the pressure in the bottle compared to the air pressure surrounding the outside. This forces the balloon to grow as it tries to equalize the pressure between the two environments. It's kind of some reverse mad scientist stuff. It's fun, try it. Number 7 is the pasta rocket. This experiment turns pasta into a miniature jet thruster. The easiest way to do this is to have a small canning jar, some hydrogen peroxide, dry yeast, and a piece of hollow pasta that can stand on its end. Pasta like ziti or bucatini work best for this. You'll need to drill a small hole in the top of the canning lid that you can place the uncooked pasta over. Once you have everything in order, fill 75% of the jar up with hydrogen peroxide, then mix in a quarter teaspoon of dry yeast. As they begin to react and bubble, place the canning lid on the jar without the screw on top. Then stand your pasta noodle over the hole to create a funnel for the oxygen that is now being released. Now light the top of the noodle with a lighter and watch as the steady rocket-like flame is created. The peroxide and yeast acts as an oxygen generator while the pasta becomes the fuel source, creating the same basic concept for modern-day rockets. Number 8 is the Leidenfrost effect. The Leidenfrost effect is a scientific reaction that occurs when water meets a surface with a temperature much higher than its boiling point. First, you'll need a saucepan or another type of metal container that you can heat on a stovetop. Heat the pan to 374 degrees Fahrenheit and then get a small cup of water. Now normally when you add droplets of water to a hot surface, they go flat and evaporate into a steam pretty fast. But at 374 degrees, they roll around as little balls of liquid. Watching the water roll around kind of seems reminiscent of watching someone run barefoot on a hot driveway after it's been in the sun too long. Scientifically speaking, this effect is achieved when the water droplet first makes contact with the surface and the heat is enough to instantly vaporize the part of the underside. It's amazing because the vapor created forms a shield under the droplet which allows it to roll around without making contact directly with the heated surface. Number 9 are naked eggs. Oh, everybody loves some eggies. For this one, you'll need a regular egg from an egg carton, a cup, and some vinegar. Fill the cup up with vinegar until the egg is covered and then leave it for at least 24 hours. While you're waiting, the vinegar is dissolving the calcium carbonate that makes up part of the eggshell, and after a day, you can start to rub the shell away, leaving just the contents of the egg. It's actually amazing. It's all held together just by a thin membrane. And the membrane itself is semi-impermeable, meaning liquid can be absorbed through it. So your new naked egg might be a bit bigger than it was before, as it now contains nasty, nasty vinegar. Without its shell, the egg actually becomes rubbery and bouncy, but bounce it too hard and you can break it. You can also shrink your naked egg down to just its yolk, through osmosis by soaking it for a day in corn syrup, which has a very low water content. But whatever you do, don't eat your naked egg when you're done with it, unless you like your eggs saturated with that nasty vinegar. And number 10 is instant ice. Okay, this one is really cool. In order to instantly create ice, you'll need to put an unopened bottle of purified water in the freezer for 2.5 to 3 hours. Once the wait is over, you should carefully retrieve your super cold water bottle, making sure not to drop or shake it. Now, once you have your instant ice making water, you can choose how you want to trigger the reaction. You can actually watch the entire bottle of water turn into solid ice in seconds just by hitting it or slamming the bottle on a surface. You can also pour the water slowly on a piece of existing ice and create cool ice formations, or dip a piece of ice into the water and watch everything freeze outwards from it. Now, this trick will only work with purified water since it doesn't contain any tiny minerals or organic material. Since these are mostly absent in purified water, it can take on temperatures below freezing without becoming solid. If you guys end up trying any of these, record it and tweet it to me. I want to see what you make. But thank you guys for watching this episode, and if you enjoyed it, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm going to have a brand new video for you tomorrow at 12 West Coast time, 3 Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you come by then. Have a fantastic...
In one look, you think you know me? Nah, this is the man I am. I've always put you first.
It takes a man to be yourself. It takes the right razor to express it. Schick HydroSense.
Optical illusion number 1. I actually have long, flowing dreadlocks. I wish. So optical illusions have fascinated humanity since, well, forever. And they've gotten more intense over the years as certain people have figured out ways to trick our eyes that trick our brains into thinking something's there that isn't. So I've gathered some of the most intense optical illusions that have ever existed, some of which, or all of which, are going to simply melt your mind. Oh, and I'm also going to explain who created them and how they work. So without further ado, here are 10 optical illusions that will melt your mind. Number 1 is the Hermann grid. The Hermann grid is a famous optical illusion in which white lines cross over a black square to form a grid. It's named after Ludemar Hermann, a German psychologist and speech scientist who originally discovered it in 1870. What's interesting about this illusion is that, unlike many others, the effect happens almost instantaneously, as at every point where the white lines intersect, a tiny gray shadow appears, or at least to your eyes. However, the moment that you look directly at the point where those lines cross, the shadow disappears. Those intersections are like tiny little ghosts, and then the second you look at them, they're gone. I'm scared. Number 2 is the Kanitsa triangle. While this one looks like a crazy multiplayer game of Pac-Man, it's much more. The Kanitsa triangle is an optical illusion in which no triangle actually exists in what you're looking at, but yet you can see one. Named after Gaetano Canizza, an Italian psychologist and artist who served as the founder of the Institute of Psychology at Trieste, he was one of the first to report on the effect in 1976. When you look at the picture, your brain creates contours, which basically outlines, in this case, the shape of a triangle, but it can be used in other shapes as well. See, where your mind expects to see completed circles, you see a piece missing, and altogether, the missing pieces tell your brain an invisible triangle must be there. But the truth is, it's not. It's like witchcraft. Number 3 is the Ponzo illusion. A lot of these are created by Italians. Italians are tricksy. First discovered by Italian psychologist Mario Ponzo in 1911, the Ponzo illusion has had countless variations ranging from chairs to blocks to simply squiggly lines, but the trick behind it is always the same. What is the trick? Well, it might surprise you, but the two objects that you're looking at are actually the exact same size. And the objects always differ. Sometimes it's monsters, sometimes it's trucks, and sometimes it's simply lines. The reason that one looks larger than the other is because of the image behind them. See, your brain is always compensating for distance, expecting whatever's further down the line to be smaller than if you were close. See, once again, it's your brain playing tricks on you. By the end of this video, you're not going to believe anything. I'm not even here. That was Putty from Power Rangers. because I don't know what that was. On to the next one. Number 4 is the Fraser spiral. Also known as the false spiral and twisted cord illusion, the Fraser spiral is another optical illusion named after the person that discovered it. In this case, it was British psychologist James Fraser who found it in 1908. When you look at it, it may seem like there are spiraling lines rolling down into infinity. However, the pattern you're actually seeing is a series of concentric circles. What? Okay, let me explain. The reason that your mind is telling you it's a spiral is because of the misaligned triangles and checkered style, which causes your eyes to see false twists and deviations. Like this. Okay, no, that was actually just me moving my body. Just keeping you on your toes. Number 5 is the Munker white illusion. What if I told you that in the image that you're looking at right now, the two colors are actually the exact same color? Yeah, they are. There are literally thousands of variations of the Munker white illusion, some being boxes while others are circles or even corkscrews. Regardless, the effect that you're looking at is the same. It's tricking your eyes into seeing a distinct difference between the two colors. Or, as Mr. M. White first witnessed it, 2 different shades of gray which are exactly the same. The reason this illusion is possible is because our brains judge colors by comparing them to the surrounding colors. If you can't quite see it or simply don't believe me, take a screenshot of that image, throw it into Photoshop, and test the 2 different colors. You'll find that they aren't different. They're exactly the same. Number 6 is the Zollner illusion. This illusion is an old one, first discovered in 1860 by a German astrophysicist named Johann Carl Friedrich Zollner in a letter that he wrote to physicist and scholar Johann Christian Poggendorf. It consists of several long lines, each crossed over by tiny lines. Now, while the image seems to show the longer lines running at different angles, it's going to amaze you to know that every line that you're looking at is perfectly parallel to the others. There are 2 easy ways to prove this. The first is by using a ruler to measure the distance between the bottoms of the 2 lines and the tops. The other is by matching each line to one line that is 2 lines away, and thus has the same angled small lines crossing it. This is another example of how lines can seem distorted by their backgrounds. For example, it may seem like I have a crazy face right now, but it's actually just because there's a sloth behind me. See that? Okay, I actually did that. I just wanted to fit a sloth into my video at some point. Mission accomplished. Number 7 is the Troxler's effect. This is another optical illusion that takes a few moments to really appreciate. Take a moment to stare at the center of this blurry image for about 30 seconds. See what happens. What should happen is that it should begin to fade until it's almost invisible to your eye. This occurs because of the Troxler's effect, which basically tells us that if we fixate our gaze on a particular point for even a short amount of time, unchanging stimulus around the area will gradually fade away and disappear. The effect was first discovered all the way back in 1804 by a Swiss physician called Ignaz Paul Vital Troxler. That's a mouthful. Since then, there have been a number of other optical illusions that have used this effect. Does this effect work on people? Because I would love to stare at Donald Trump for a while and just see what happens. Number 8 is the hybrid image. This illusion is actually quite new compared to the other illusions on this list, having only been proposed in 1994 and then recently perfected by Aude Olivia of MIT and Philippe G. Shims of University of Glasgow. The most likely famous example that you're going to find online is this one, the Albert Einstein and Marilyn Monroe illusion. Look closely at the image. You'll see the finer details of Einstein on a blurry background, but backing away or shrinking the image will reveal an underlying image of Marilyn Monroe. Now, this one's really trippy, but the reason that it occurs is because of the way that your brain processes visual input and the hybrid image's combination of the lower number of pixels in Monroe's picture and the larger number of dense pixels in Mr. Einstein's. Try it right now for yourself. Look at the image closely and then back all the way up from it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Number 9 is illusory motion. Whoa, man, psychedelic. The person who originally discovered this illusion is actually a highly debated topic in the scientific community. However, the motion illusion was proven by Roger B.H. Total and and his team by showing images to patients while they underwent an MRI. Look at the image. It seems to move when you look away from it because of the cognitive effects of interlacing color contrast and shape positions within it. In fact, this is actually a trick that many advertisements have used on billboards and signs to catch your attention. Nothing that you're looking at is actually moving, but it's essentially that your brain just can't handle it, so it appears to be moving because it's just trying to make sense of it. See? I'm not even moving. But your brain's just trying to figure out why there's this eraser-shaped headed man just staring at me. And number 10 is the Thatcher effect. Oh look, a completely normal picture that's upside down. Okay, let's just spin that right side up and wait, what? Originally discovered in 1980 by psychology professor Peter Thomson, the Thatcher effect is actually named after the former Prime Minister of Britain, Margaret Thatcher. It was named after her because it was her image that Thomson used to initially demonstrate this illusion. See, our brains have trouble discerning the differences in the obviously introverted features when the picture is upside down. This is because the part of the brain devoted to face perception is rarely used to discern features in that position. Essentially, we see the features but cannot properly perceive how ridiculous they look until we see them on a face oriented the way that we're used to seeing it. For example, I'm smiling right now. Can you tell? And now your brain should be sufficiently melted. However, if you still have your wits about you, be sure to click that red subscribe button to subscribe to my channel so that you can catch my next video. And don't forget to add me to the Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagrams because I like to interact with you guys off of YouTube just as much as on YouTube. So, have a great day, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
I really need to start whitening. Best way to whiten teeth.
And you thought when you looked at Google Maps, all you find were directions. No, it gets weird. People, when they launch Google Maps, find exactly what they're searching for, but others find more than they bargained for. Since it began, Google's cameras have captured some really, really weird stuff, and what's even weirder is that not all of it was accidental. So today, we're looking at some of the absolute strangest things that have ever been captured by Google Maps. So without further ado, the 10 craziest things found on Google Maps. Number 1 is the giant pink bunny. Who would have thought something so could be also totally creepy? Yep, that image that you're looking at is a 55-meter long, 5-meter thick pink knitted bunny appropriately named Hare. Hare was constructed out of a fabric and straw by Gelatin, a Vienna art collective, and he lives on a large hill called Coleto Fava in northern Italy. The collective built him to make visitors feel tiny, the way that Gulliver did in his fictional travels. Clearly okay with being creepy, the collective added some guts that appeared to pop out of Hare's side and made his mouth into a twisted, scared expression. Some people need a hobby. Number 2 is a street with a view. Now here's some people who know how to have fun while thinking outside of the box. Street with a View was an artistic installation headed by Robin Hewlett and Ben Kingsley of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Together with a large group of local residents and the direct cooperation of the Google Street View team, they created a number of scenes for the public to view while perusing the site. They include a heroic rescue, a marching band, and a 17th century samurai battle. Wow, whoever knew that Google Street View was so cool? Next time you want to watch Netflix, just go on there. Search down the alleyways, never know what you're going to find. Number 3 are thieves. There's unfortunately plenty of crime to spot happening on Google Maps, from simple speeding to assault and even prostitution. You'd think that criminals would want to be careful, maybe, perform the crime at night, or at the very least, out of view of cars driving past. But instead, we're treated to the class of criminal that breaks into buildings and steals cars, bikes, and other personal property, while a few snaps of them are taken by a car with attached to it. Google Maps have been used in quite a few cases to locate stolen merchandise and even bring some lawbreakers to justice. See, that's just lazy. I feel like if you're in the middle of a crime and you see, a giant Google car driving by with 15 cameras on it, maybe you should stop, take a little break, pull out a sandwich, just chill, and then resume after the car's gone by. Or don't. No, actually, don't. It's better that you get caught. Yeah. Number 4 is roadkill. Everybody makes mistakes, even the guy who drives for Google Streetcar View. On January 29th, 2009, Google released a statement addressing a number of complaints that flooded in after images of a young deer before and after being struck by a Street View car on Five Points Road in upstate New York were uploaded to Google Maps. As it turns out, Google claims that the deer got up moments after being hit and ran away before police arrived, letting the driver off the hook, which I'm sure came as a relief to both him and the mega company. If you're the guy driving the van with 15 cameras on it and you hit anything, you should just assume that you've lost your job and, you know what, just go full-on Grand Theft Auto. Just give them something to look at on Google Street View, you know what I'm saying? Make it entertaining. Number 5 are deformed people. No, the image you see here is not a newly discovered human-ostrich hybrid. It's simply a woman who moved at the wrong time. There are many similar pictures on Google Street View where two images taken mere moments apart overlap to create a distorted rendition of subjects in the foreground. Why does this occur? Well, the technology that matches each image to the one taken before and after can't match both the foreground and the background smoothly. So while the temple in the background and the ground seem fine, the woman is split between two panoramic shots. Don't lie, if you have a phone that can do a panoramic image, you know you've done this too. And if you haven't, you're welcome. Go have some fun. Number 6 is the bikini bar. This one has surprised many people who have stumbled upon it in real life, but it is still an incredibly creepy thing to find on Google Maps. Created by Dutch artist Joop van Lieshout and his art collective, the bikini bar is a giant walk-through torso of a bikini-clad woman and was made in 2006 for an outdoor gallery. The sculpture is meant to humorously draw attention to housing issues. In addition to the bikini bar, the artist made Darwin, a giant dark blue sperm, and bar rectum, which is described as a multifunctional anal office. Yep. Number 7 is the bat signal. You know, I've always wondered how Batman stores all of his cars, boats, and flying machines in a cave. Now I know. Well, as it turns out, he's been keeping them at a military base in Japan. The U.S. Air Force's 44th Fighter Squadron, Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, has the awesome symbol painted on its roof that was put there sometime in the 1980s. Many in the unit actually take pride from the bat symbol marking their base, and it's clearly been touched up and maintained since its creation. Na 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 Air Force! That actually has a good ring to it. Number 8 is a KFC advertisement. It should come as no surprise that businesses advertise with Google all the time. But for some companies such as KFC, that just isn't enough. Back in 2006, the restaurant launched a global re-imaging of their brand, and with it built a gargantuan version of their logo that stares into space from the desert town of Rachel, Nevada. But they're not alone. In fact, other companies have created real-world images to be displayed on Google Maps, such as the Coca-Cola logo made up of over 70,000 Coke bottles in the Chilean desert and the 45,000 square foot Firefox crop circle in Oregon. This is a great way to advertise. I'm just gonna do the giant Baldo face somewhere in Canada. Yeah, it's just my face on the ground like this. Nightmares for the astronauts. Number 9 is before and after devastation. Hurricane Sandy, the most deadly storm of the 2012 hurricane season, made its way to New York on October 26th, bringing with it devastation and loss. One of the places hit hardest by this powerful superstorm was Staten Island in New York. On January 3rd, 2013, the Google Street View car drove through Staten Island, snapping images of devastation, which drew complaints from residents who didn't want their destroyed homes displayed for the world to see. And in one truly chilling instance, with one click along Kissam Avenue, you can see the before and then after images of a home that was completely leveled by the hurricane. This should be a good lesson to the Google team. Let's not take pictures after devastation. Let's wait a little bit for, just to be nice at least. Number 10 is murder on the dock. Oh yeah, a truly disturbing image out of Almere, Netherlands. This person on this dock seems to be about to dispose of a corpse, a trail of blood revealing where they dragged the body from. This very picture on Google Maps drove people wild, fearing that a grisly murder. However, in reality, it appears to be red. It's actually a trail of water and planks as a wet dog named Rama runs back to its owner. Rama's owner and her friends say that they were playing fetch with the dog, but some still suspect wrongdoing. Google Street View, man, just nightmares for days. Also entertaining. I want to give a big shout out to Audible for sponsoring this video. They have over 250,000 audiobook titles in almost every genre. Lately, I've been listening to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a classic. And very soon, I'll be on to the next book in the Harry Potter series. Can't wait. Audiobooks are the perfect way to pass the time, especially if you're doing something time-consuming like traveling or maybe doing chores around the house. No matter who you are or what you're interested in, I guarantee that they have an audiobook for you. And they're giving my audience a free day subscription